I'd had a high blood pressure. I had high cholesterol. One would look at me and wonder, is she telling for real? My doctor would confirm that, yes, indeed, that I did suffer from those conditions.
Help the viewer understand how these nutritionally really help. I know you are not a doctor. Help fight things like strokes and other diseases that afflict us, even diabetes.
Medication, yes, does work, but I need to also help the medication. How do I help medication? I then look into what is it that I'm putting into my body. I'm cutting on my fats, I'm cutting on salt, I'm cutting on... So with all those...
This is Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. We enthuse, we energize, we inspire, and we empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes in BW and beyond. Hello and Dumela, thank you so much for taking the time out to watch yet another episode of Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. We're excited as ever to share with you life-changing and impactful information on entrepreneurship, what's happening in the Botswana ecosystem, what's out there. I think you have a lot to benefit from this particular one. We're talking about local food production and distribution. We're talking about the food. Some of it you can see on the table here. My guest is Aunty Amy. Amelia Sanders is her full name. She's an entrepreneur who's making waves in this space, and we're just about to get into it. But before we do, my book, Nuggets of Grit, is available from Exclusive Books at Airport Junction, and also here from Mogobe Plaza, first floor. And we are just on the verge of hitting that 1,000 book sales mark. And please help us get there. And we would like to see ourselves as... I'd like to see myself as a best-selling author, and I can only do that with your help. In addition to that, please strike that subscribe button and the notification bell. And if you don't mind, also make sure to give us a like. Welcome, Miss Sanders. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Remo.
Emma, just tell the viewer who you are, give a little bit of a background, share your backstory, as it were.
Okay. My name is Amelia Sanders. Ke mme wa ha Khabane hale. Ke kholetse mo Gaborone, ka tsena sekolo mo Gaborone, a number of government schools throughout Gaborone. Ke tsene from Bosele to all the way to GSS, where I completed my O-levels. And like any student or any child who grew up during my era, I then went on to serve my Tirolo Sechaba in Okavango. I was in Sepopa village, where I served at the clinic.
Yes.
And then I came back to Gaborone, started in the workspace. I worked for a number of companies. And in 2018, I suffered a minor stroke. And then I lost my job. And then in that space, that's when I started.
Where were you working?
I worked for the BS company. And then post that, I decided to say, while I was at home recovering, I looked at myself in terms of like, what do I do? What do I eat? And then that's when my sourcing for myself came up with the business concept. Because when I was looking for the food items for my own consumption, there were other people who were then asking, once they come in, they'll be like, what are you eating? And then the question is, oh, this is Mosuhlwane. Oh, this is nice. Can I have it? Then the business came in to think, oh, if so and so has tasted Mosuhlwane, how about I make extra so that they can buy and they can introduce the next person. So the business just started off like that.
Okay. Did you go to university? What did you study there?
I went to university much later in life. I did a diploma in accountancy and business studies. And then I've done also public relations. I have done risk management, quite a number of programs that I did. But that was much later in life because life just didn't happen the way people would think university would be after secondary school. No, it didn't happen that way. Somebody would be asking why, because I didn't do bad.
Yeah.
I did very well in terms of my academics. For me to have been admitted into uni, but life dictated otherwise.
So what started as an effort by you to help yourself after your stroke turned into a business? Can you just walk us through how that happened?
I was looking for products because following my stroke, I'd had a high blood pressure. I had high cholesterol. One would look at me and wonder, is she telling for real? My doctor would confirm that, yes, indeed, that I did suffer from those conditions. And then when I had to relook in terms of what is it that I can do, I first looked at medication. Yes, it does work, but I need to also help the medication. How do I help medication? I then look into what is it that I'm putting into my body. I'm cutting on my fats, I'm cutting on salt, I'm cutting on... So with all those decisions, I opted rather to go the local traditional food way. And then that's when I started introducing Mosuhlwane, dinawa, and all that into my diet.
Talk to us about what led you to think that the traditional way is the answer.
When you look at the food choices that we have as Botswana, we weren't naturally choosy of the salts, the fats, and that. We would just boil dinawa ka metsi, maybe limipinyana or latela limipinyana, just to boil it, to flavor it a bit. And then that was what sustained our grandparents. And then when I revisited that, I decided to say, okay, maybe the timing isn't quite there. If I was to serve Mogobe, you probably would not like a take to that as much as you would.
So I wouldn't have a problem.
Yes, for you, understandable. But it's not every Motswana who'd take that. So what I tried to do was to say, okay, how do we make it comfortable for everybody? If you have to do Mosuhlwane stir fry, what's wrong with that? The limitation, the one thing that you have to be cautious of is how much salt are you adding on there, how much oil are you adding onto there. Try and strike that balance so that it becomes as effective for your diet, for your health. That's basically where it started.
Okay, why Mosuhlwane? You mentioned it a few times. What's so exceptional about Mosuhlwane?
Mosuhlwane is our Setswana rice, if you want to call it that. Essentially, it's the whole grain that's just dehulled. And part of it, if you look at the Mosuhlwane grains, it's unfortunate I don't have the grain here right now. The grain is not fully polished, if you'd call it that.
It's not processed.
It's not. Some of the grains would still have the Bran cover on it, and then some of it would have the Bran taken off. So much as the Bran is taken away, the ideal is maybe just to eat the whole grain sorghum. But if you're eating half of it, you are better off as opposed to not eating any at all. So the idea is to bring the food rather than putting it out there as some boring traditional food as some people would look at it. We could look at introducing the product and try and cook it in a modern way where it could become appetizing, enticing for the next person who can view it, who can be served Mosuhlwane. And nowadays, Mosuhlwane is a delicacy. People eat Mosuhlwane at weddings, at our social gatherings. And that's a step in the right direction because then more Botswana get to know the products as something that is of value as opposed to, for instance, normally we are used to having rice or something like that at our events. What's wrong with us now serving Mosuhlwane at the next wedding or at the next event that we have that we can do it?
Yeah. The name Aunty Ams. How did you come up with that name?
Aunty Amy came through as my nieces and nephews. I've always been, as the eldest in the family, my siblings have children who've always now come to call me as Aunty Amy. So I've always been Aunty Amy to all my siblings, my nieces and nephews. And then when I opened my business, when I started the business concept, I was in discussion with my daughters and they said, how about we open it as Aunty Amy's, because you are Aunty Amy to everybody. And then that has then extended from my nuclear family to Aunty of everybody. I mean, if you get to Riverwalk where I operate, I'm Aunty Amy to everybody who comes there. And essentially that's how the name came through. And I'm Aunty Amy to everybody, I suppose, even to Mogobe.
You are my newfound aunt. What makes you different from the other businesses that distribute food? What is your unique selling proposition, as they say, USP?
I think the one thing is I have quite a variety of products. I sell unique or different things that you'd normally not see in a conventional supermarket. If you walk into any supermarket, you won't be able to get morogo wa dinawa. Or you won't get ntlatlhawane.
Take us through some of these, yeah.
This here is a packet of raw nuts, raw ground nuts, that essentially people would buy to roast for themselves to eat at home as a snack. Others in the Bukalaka area, they pound the nuts, they add them to morogo, and others even to their main courses. Like they cook what they call, I'm going to murder the name. I'm not sure if it's dobi or do something like that. I know it's that short. The name is that short. So it's not like I know everything like I say. All I know like now with the product here that I'm
Do
holding
you roast
in hand,
them?
Yes,
You sell them?
I sell them roasted, yes. I sell them raw as well. Because each and every one of us has their own needs in terms of like what their preference is. Somebody would want to buy just to snack there at the store. Somebody would want to take them because they want to cook the dinawa. Essentially what they do is in the Kalanga area, they cook dinawa. It's a combination of all legumes. You have your dinawa, you have letshotlho.
These are called legumes.
Some are legumes like bodinawa, and these are the legumes. And then some of them are the carbohydrates, like your letshotlho is a carbohydrate. But then in one pot they'll cook a combination of these. And because of that, you find that if somebody's buying manoko like this, in your mind you have a recipe that you think they're going to do. And then you get to listen to their story to say, what are you going to do with this manoko? They'll tell you something that is completely different from what you had in mind. And that is what has happened. Because
What do you mean, for instance?
Like I was talking about, I don't want to matter the
name.
the name.
Yeah.
The Kalanga dish that I talked about. For me, I was limiting my knowledge in terms of like doing the roasted nuts or using them for morogo or something like that. But as I say, I'm there to teach and also to learn. So I get to now know you can cook morogo with manoko, or you can even cook your dinawa. You can mix them with manoko and letshotlho and a variety of other products just into one dish, into one pot, and then it covers in terms of like your dietary requirements. If you're looking at your proteins, you have your legumes covering your proteins, you have your letshotlho covering your carbohydrates. So instead of just eating to fill the tummy, you actually are balancing your meal.
Okay. What else do you have? We have quite a few products here. Which one is this?
Those are sugar beans. These are the sugar beans. They're also a protein source. And you can use either these or our traditional Setswana beans to kick in your protein requirements.
Which ones are the traditional ones? These ones?
These ones, they are called dinawa. They have a name. They're called Mosuhlwane.
Mosuhlwane.
Mosuhlwane is literally means it's the eggs of that bird called Tsilwane. And if you look at them,
they look like
literally look like eggs from a bird. And this is a different type from the sugar beans. And I also have the common other ones, the black-eyed beans. You have customers who come in because they prefer Mosuhlwane or they prefer black-eyed beans. You have Mosuhlwane on the counter, they'll tell you, no, you don't have dinawa. I want black eye. You have black eye, somebody comes in with a preference for Mosuhlwane, they'll tell you, this is not dinawa for me. For me to have eaten dinawa, I'll have to have eaten Mosuhlwane. I always try to be balanced in terms of like, what is it that I have available to cover for everybody's taste and preference. It's not always easy, but I always try to do that.
Can you help the viewer understand how these nutritionally really help? I know you are not a doctor. Help fight things like strokes and other diseases that afflict us, even diabetes.
The one thing about these are natural products that we're talking about, and they're not enhanced in terms of like anything. But when preparation is also essential in terms of like when you're cooking the food, your addition of salts and oils has to be moderate. With that taken care of, then you don't have to be worrying about people becoming obese. You don't have to worry about cholesterol levels going up. You don't have to be worrying about conditions of the heart, because there are certain products that we eat that end up depositing into our veins. In a case in point, talking about my condition, we realized that the veins had narrowed down because of cholesterol. And medication does help, but when you supplement that with dietary considerations as well, you find that the medication becomes even more effective, that the clearing becomes quicker than if you're just focusing maybe on medication. Because rather than having more deposits being delivered onto the blood system, the medication is clearing off what's already there, but there are no deposits. So you end up making a better recovery.
So what would you say are the number of products you have in total?
I cannot say. It depends. Some of the products are seasonal products. And not all the products I have are products that I have been familiar with. It's products that get introduced to me by my customers as well, to say, have you considered adding this product? Like, for instance, this very one here.
Which one is this?
This one is yellow pap.
Yellow pap.
Yellow pap is literally a whole grain maize. The yellow maize that just get ground.
We used to eat this at school in the old days.
This is it.
Matonos.
No, this is different from matonosa. Because matonosa is a combination of grains. Matonosa is this combined with soya and this and that. People who have seen this have always said, can't you make matonosa? So I'm dying to see that recipe of how to make matonosa. Then maybe one day we'll have it at the stall as well.
And now, what has been the reaction of your customers, loyal customers who take these traditional foods?
The reaction is good. The uptake is very positive. Not just from people walking the street or coming to the mall or something like that. I've had positive feedback coming up from the health fraternity as well. I've had
the Ministry of Health?
Not Ministry.
Or from doctors?
Not Ministry of Health per se, but from people who've known, people in the health fraternity who know I run the stall at Riverwalk. They've gone on to encourage, they would recommend to their patients to say, this is what you need to be eating, and you can get these products. and people have, because like in the same space that I said that I was finding it difficult to get the right food. People would say, but where can I get this? If you walk into any supermarket, unless maybe you go to another shop and buy, what do they call it? How does the name just escape me now?
You can just describe it. What does it look like?
It's exactly this product. It's corn just ground with the bran. And you go there to buy this product, you eat it, it's the same thing. But because it's a brand, it's pricier than what I have. I'm not watering down the brand, it's a brand. And they have their own right to do that. And they have everything, they can sell what they need to supplement, to help people in terms of what their needs are. But if you have something like this and it's helping people to recover, let's do that. Let's all stand up and say, here's a product. Use this product, recover your health. I'm also in the same way. People come in, they see me eating these. I'm not saying I don't eat the conventional food items. I do eat those. But then I think these weigh more in terms of quantities to the conventional food items that we have. Because I'm trying to preach to say let's eat our organic food, because our kids nowadays, if you serve them dinawa, they think you are an abusive mother.
Where did that come from?
Because
they want spaghetti.
I want spaghetti because the world that we live in has made it seem like you are wayward or you are eating that because you are poor. It's not because we are poor, because these, if you were to put them on a scale in terms of like what are they giving us in terms of the protein content or whatever, with the conventional food items, you'll find that they probably weigh more, if not equal to the other food items. So it's just for us to get to know what it is that we have, what is it that works for us.
How do we get these into the supermarkets, which is where we buy most of our things?
I'm not into supermarkets yet because there's a process that I have to follow. I'm in the process of doing that. But the challenge that I have is because this is a one-man or one-woman band. I'm playing the guitar, I'm playing the drums, I'm doing everything. If you see this, if you give a compliment, you're giving it to Amelia. It's basically that I don't have a central supplier. And the products that I have, some of them are seasonal. Right now, there's a fruit that I'm selling. It's called motsentsela.
A fruit?
Yes, it's dried fruit. And people are passionate about that fruit. But they come and go because we don't have a system yet in place where we can say, let's store this for our future use. I've also been selling Milo. That is a fresh fruit that people in the villages are just collecting to sell. Soon they'll also be off season. And then
what about traditional things like moretologa, mupudu, and so on and so forth?
Those are, I'm still trying to see where can I get those. And again, if in doing these interviews to say to Batswana, let's appreciate the food items that we have. What else do you have that I don't have that you think can sell? There's a mother or a father out there in the community that are looking for a job, to say if I can get a job to feed my children. That could be your job. You just go into the wild, you collect moretwa, you dry moretwa, then Aunty Amy comes, you go approach Aunty Amy and say, "Can I moretwa ke o? Would you be interested in buying moretwa from me?" Then we could look into it. I buy moretwa, I sell to the other people here. Some people, some of these products, they don't know them because they've always known what is
In the
available
supermarket,
in
yeah.
the supermarket. But then also it's also to introduce these. Some people, when I was selling Milo, people were like, "Wow, when was it last time I ate Milo? I can't remember." This is quite interesting because now I get to reminisce.
So
in
let
terms
me
of what-
understand your business model. Your business model is to approach people in the countryside, in the villages, to say, bring whatever you have. If it is of a certain quality, I'll buy it at a given price. And then what happens? You sell, and then you distribute what? Profit, or you sell cash? How does it work?
Basically, I operate like a business. I just go to the suppliers first to source what it is that they have, and then we talk in terms of their pricing, and if the deal is good for both of us, I buy from them and then I go and package. And then once I've packaged, like in the case of my products that I have here, then I'll go on to sell at the stall. And then if maybe my suppliers are running low, I'll also establish in terms of if they have how much, what quantities do they have? Can I get a refill at any time? Is it something that I can buy well in advance and store at my place? Then I can just package from there onwards. So there are opportunities. Motswana ya ka bua re ma sa re Setswana.
I get to know what I'm going to go to. Ya go tlogela moriting siki se letsatsing.
Not quite that one, but maano a mantsi. Maano a mantsi a re ka dirang. Mongwe o ko gae.
Hospitalos.
Go sita loso he. Mongwe o ko gae gone yana o na le dinawa. Kgang ya go ke gone gore re ntse re tswa mo temong go lemilwe gone yana. Mongwe wa ka ntse gore kana ke na le lebelebele. Ga ke na madi ke tlhoka go ira 1 2 3 mme ga ke na madi. Avail that lebelebele. Aunty Amy a le reke, not just me. I know go na le batswana ba bangwe ba ba dirang something similar to what I'm doing in their different aspects, in their different areas. Avail those products so that then if I buy...
So where do they find you?
I normally run a stall at Riverwalk. But then, as I said, it's only Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But I'm now trying to extend because initially I was running the stall there Monday to Sunday. And then it became too much because I still had to run
To source the
stuff, to package, to do this. So it became too strenuous on my side. And then I opted to say, okay, let me use the other days to do back office, and then the other days I do front office, where I then would be at the store. So on those days that I run around getting the stock, I stock a package, I do everything, and then in the other days where I'm selling, I would just focus on selling. But then some days it happens that what I have packaged gets sold out. What does it mean? It means coming back from the store, then I come back to do the repackaging so that I can be ready for the next day. Hopefully with I would be able to get somebody who can assist me to run the store, then I can just do the back office. And then things would be much more easier, much more manageable, because customers don't want to come in and find Aunty Amy is operating, but she doesn't have morogo. Because for that customer, that morogo could be the only product that they wanted to come to buy. Or they could be coming in because they want a whole range of products. But if they come in and get 5 items out of the 7 that they wanted, it's a disappointment on their part. So it's always a matter of trying to balance out things that when they come there, they find what they're looking for.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that there's a process involved in getting to supermarkets. What is involved? What is the challenge there, and how are you going to go through that challenge so that more Botswana can have access to these important products?
The challenge is that going into the supermarkets, we need to ensure that the food safety is paramount. And I did with one of the products, I did the safety process done.
Which one is that?
Mosuhlwane. And then I'm awaiting to get 2 more products safety.
Where is it available, that Mosuhlwane?
It's not in the supermarkets yet, because then I reconsider to say there's going to be hiccups in terms of like being a one-woman business. Would I be able to manage the supply demand challenges if I were to go into the supermarket?
Why? Or because it's a one-woman show?
Because it's a one-woman show.
And you're not sure about your suppliers?
I'm not sure about my suppliers, because there was a time, if you recall, that we had sorghum supply issues, that we didn't have sorghum available. And because of things like that, if you go to a supermarket and say to them, I have 1,000 bags of Mosuhlwane, or we agree on that in those terms, for immediately those supplies run out. They'll call you again and say your stock is running low. And it doesn't mean that it's it's just that conversation. It means you have to work on that, make sure that before that supply runs out, you have stock already available. And then if I'm coming to Mogobe to say I need my bele, or I need for Mosuhlwane.
On that point, is the business scalable? Can it be increased? Can it be go up exponentially or not?
Yes, the business is scalable. It's very much scalable. One of the things that I'm looking at is not just going into supermarkets. I'm also looking into opening up another stall, another place. And my doing is to try and find somebody who can run the stall that is already established. And then I can open up another stall at another place.
I'm sure a lot of people are available for that. Getting employees should be easy.
Yes, it's
but maybe not issues of trust, but they are there.
Yes, people are there, but then again, it's also to say who is there. Are they passionate in terms of what it is that we are doing? I think maybe my holding on to that is because I'm doing it because I have the passion for it. I hold it closely as my baby, if one would want to say that. That even when I talk to my customers, I want them to get the full benefit of Aunty Amy products. Somebody would come in not knowing how to prepare morogo. I've had expatriates come in and buy morogo because I've explained to them what it is, how you cook it. And they'll go in and experiment with it, and they'll come back and say, wow, I actually did what you recommended, and I'm coming for another packet.
So is it getting to a point where you'll be selling with recipes as well? Or are you going to be preparing a cookbook separately?
I haven't done that. I've been in contact with Setswana or Botswana recipe book writers to say, can we, because I get customers who don't know how to cook any product. And I know there are Botswana recipe writers who are available. I've seen Setswana recipe books to say, this is how we prepare Mogobe Bantatlawan. Essentially, Ntatlawan is whole grain sorghum. You cook it like you would cook your normal motogo, whether you cook motogo or you cook your solid mogobe. But if somebody comes in and doesn't know how to cook it, if you have a recipe book to say to them, here's a recipe book that you can buy that can guide you in terms of how to cook this, then you make things easy, because they then become.
Is it something you're working on then?
I wasn't planning on doing the recipe book myself, because when I got to learn that there are recipe book writers, Setswana recipe book writers, I approached them to say, let's collaborate. That hasn't quite been, they haven't been forthcoming that much. I'm not saying all of them, but conversations are still ongoing.
Yeah.
Because what I wanted to do was at least to maybe just have their book there to sell on their behalf.
Yeah. I think most
to explain how the products can be sold or can be cooked.
I think most Botswana realize that the food we're getting from supermarkets are not good for us. In fact, they affect our health in a big way. I think most people are realizing that. The question is, how do we turn that curiosity, that awareness, into regular customers and getting them committed to buying, going back to our tradition? Kana ke kgang ya go boela go marakanelong a ditsela akere?
Yeah. It's talking about the products that we have, showing to the next person what the benefits are of the products that we have, as opposed to product X. Also, to making it more fashionable, go ja morogo wa Setswana or any of our traditional food items, because people look at you when motho a go bona o ja morogo wa Setswana. When I go to the stall, because what I cook at home is what I take with. I don't normally buy food, takeaways and things like that.
That's junk, isn't
You'll
it? Some call it junk food.
You'll find me eating my...
Isn't it junk?
That's what it's called, yes. Because you find that it's loaded with fats or oils. It's loaded with preservatives. Saturated
fats and preservatives.
Yes.
And all the things that take you to the grave sooner rather than later. Unfortunately, that's the way it is.
Yeah. But then we need to just look into it to say, how do we make it something that it becomes an everyday thing that nobody would look at it in a different way if they see you
Yes, but how do you turn that curiosity into, lifestyle change, into commitment?
It's engaging with the customers. I engage with the customers to show them the benefit of eating what I sell. Some of the products are in the supermarkets. Of course, if you can get the products in the supermarket, there's nothing wrong. You can just go in there and pick whatever it is that you need. But then it's knowing what it is that you are picking and what is it that you're not picking. Because supermarkets have our brothers and sisters working in there as well. And if you're going to come to Aunty Amy's to find Aunty Amy doesn't have beans, you can't go on an empty stomach to bed because Aunty Amy doesn't have beans. Rather go to a supermarket and pick what works for you in terms of your health, your desires to eat. But refrain from indulging in things that could take you, like you said, to the grave sooner.
And do you use technology? And if so, how do you use technology to raise awareness?
I'm a technophobic. The only technology that I use is WhatsApp. Normally when I get to the stall, I'll send an update to say that I'm in operation.
You send to who?
I send
you put in your status?
On my status, yes. Obviously that limits only to those people who have my contact. And it's not everybody who's in my contacts that looks up at my status. So you find that some people will see it, some people will not see it.
So why don't you come up with a marketing strategy? Why don't you link up with those who can promote a bit more aggressively?
That is what I'm doing. I think one of the things that I'm trying to do is to unwrangle myself from being at the stall, is so that I can do some of these background initiatives. Because if I'm then able to sit down with somebody who can work on maybe on Facebook to send out an update to say Aunty Amy is in operation on this day, or we are live at Riverwalk or something like that.
So what do you have in mind? What kind of partnership and systems can you put in place to broaden your scope so that you're not just a one-woman business?
I think the one thing is when you look at the business, when I look at it as a small business. I think it's for me to look at it at the potential it has and engage.
Think of it as a big business. And then you start thinking big.
That's what I'm saying. I need to let go of it as a small business and look at it as a big business. I mean, it's not just that, it's those thoughts that are in mind. Because essentially what I'm looking at also is not just running a stall at Riverwalk, so looking at opening up other avenues. I'm looking also into getting into supermarkets. I'm looking at possibly exporting. So those are things that I need to relinquish some of the responsibilities so that I can focus on those and try and grow the brand as it sits. So that people can interact, people who've interacted with the brand can associate and share their views, share their experiences. And Mogobe didn't know about Aunty Amy until now. And you having interacted with Aunty Amy products, you're going to tell the next person about the products.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm buying this. How much does this one cost?
That is 100 pula.
This I'm buying. And how much is this?
Morogo is 45.
So I'm definitely a customer. These ones are mine.
Okay.
Obviously, Morogo is what we grew up on. How do you propose people cook this particular Morogo? Can you share some ideas?
Yes. Essentially, Morogo is cooked already as it sits.
Yeah, so you just munch it as a snack.
You could, but it's easier when it's cooked with your onion and your tomato. You could fry your onion, fry your tomato, or add any other vegetables that you want. Some people propose rather than putting it in there, you could just drench it in a bit of water to try and soften it, and then you just add into your tomato and onion vegetable mix, and then add flavoring, and then you are done.
So so it's anybody can cook it. In other words, it's easy. You don't need any special expertise.
Onion, tomato, green pepper, any of your vegetables will do it for you.
Okay.
You don't need any expertise. It's a bit of salt, maybe some flavoring. If you want to add some spices or something like that, you could do that.
And
just to liking.
And you see these foods as eco-friendly, right? Can you explain that? Why are they considered eco-friendly? If they are so eco-friendly, why are they not available everywhere?
They're eco-friendly because essentially this Morogo is coming from a farm in a village outside of Gaborone. And the processing in terms of our Morogo, it's not... I buy from local farmers, like I said. They don't use any pesticides, or they don't use any mechanization or things like that. Yes, some of these things, we need them because they have their pros and cons. They hasten up processing. But then again, they have their own their side effects in terms of, like, if it's something that maybe uses fuels that emit carbon to the environment. Those are things that we could do without. Yes. But then the times have gone so much that we try to do things to achieve more with less time. Like if you were to plant to plow dinawa, the traditional way that we used to do, it used to take days to finish 1 acre. Nowadays, we're using the tractor, which tills the land in 30 minutes to an hour or so, and then it's done. But if we can get that where we just break it even such that we don't impact the environment that much, but we get in the full benefit as well, and that would be ideal.
So your business was open around COVID. How did COVID impact you, positively or negatively?
Impact was because then with restrictions and all that, it meant we were all operating indoors, and we couldn't do anything, and it hasn't been smooth sailing, because where I'm operating now was the latest of a number of series of markets that I've done. I've tried selling out at a number of markets. No, there was a point I was at BBS. There was a time I was at what is that place called now?
Riverwalk.
No, not at Riverwalk. And then ultimately Riverwalk had a show for the festive season. Then that they were looking for people to put up stalls. And then I took up that offer and I was accepted. And that's how it all started. My display at Riverwalk started.
Would you say that as a group, you said there are a number of businesses like yours, the trend is changing? Are we now going back to our traditional foods? Because you did say you are not the only distributor.
No, I'm not. I think that there's that realization that indeed our food has benefits for our health. And it's not just for our health. You find that some ladies and gentlemen who are running these stores, they don't have a job they don't have a job that they're relying on. They have families to raise. And rather than sitting there and folding your hands, you get up and then you go and do your sales. In a day you make money, and then you're supplying food to people who are working, who need the food. Then you use the money to sustain your family, you use the money to restock, you use the money to run your other affairs that need money. But if you're going to be sitting there and saying, I don't have a job, I don't have this, it's not going to help, because ultimately you don't have a job. The one thing is, what are you going to do about it? So for me, it was choosing to realize that I don't have a job, but what can I do? And then I decided, okay, I'll push my passion, because I love Setswana traditional food. And I know there are people who already are keen on getting these products. So if they can buy these products from me, I can go on and pay my bills. I can do these other things that I need to do.
So it promotes, entrepreneurship in that sense, as well as enhancing community advancement, in the sense that you are helping the entire community.
Yes.
Now, what is the next plan for the company, for Aunty Amy's business going forward? What is the next 5 to 10 years program for the business?
I think Aunty Amy, I consider it as an international brand. Aunty Amy is an international, has a potential for being an international brand, because we live in a global village. I've had people who are outside of Botswana. I actually have customers who are outside, who would call to say, I'm looking for this. My cousin is coming to visit me in a month's time. I've given them your details. Or somebody says, I'm going to visit my cousin outside the country, and they've asked that I bring them this product. So now what has always been my dream was to export my products. And there are platforms that can assist with that. Just that I haven't had the chance to engage those platforms to see how we can work a way forward. There's another app that I've put Aunty Amy products on, but because this is a one-man band or one-woman band, I don't get the time to respond to that. So if I was to free myself of doing the physical selling, then I'd be able to attend to those all other aspects, to say if there's an inquiry on the app, then I'd be able to respond timeously and get the products. If there's an order or anything like that, the product are sent out.
I think I read a post where someone was saying 50, 60 years ago, we didn't have diabetes, we didn't have heart disease, we didn't have all these ailments that are called lifestyle diseases.
Yes.
That it's provable that if we go back to what we're eating 50, 60 years ago, 90% of the communicable diseases will disappear. What do you think?
I think that is why I'm on this drive as well, to encourage more people to do that, because I've realized that from my own personal health. And then if I can do
because you've recovered 100% from the stroke because of the food.
Yes. And then if I can just share that word with one person, I've shared the word now with Mogobe. And I'm in a platform now where I'm sharing with Mogobe's followers. It means my customers who've always been coming to the stall to get the products, who also got the information from several others. I know customers who've gone on to refer their own family members and stuff to say, go and buy these products. Because of their own personal experience, because they realize maybe they've been advised to reconsider their eating habits. Then they go to their cousin or whoever and say to them, reconsider your eating habits, consider buying these, instead of eating your meat, use your legumes, use your beans for your protein requirements. Then they've gone back. Some people have come back and said, I've been struggling to lose weight, and I've since cut this, cut that, and I've lost this much. I'm not a medical person. I have no claims whatsoever in terms of that, but I know what has worked. I know what I've learned.
Well, speaking of medical people, shouldn't this message be directed at them? Shouldn't the doctors and health professionals be the ones receiving this message?
I think the message is for us all, because the medical doctors are, I'm not saying they're not doing it. They are doing it, because I have
some.
Yes, some of them are doing it. I have customers who've come in because their doctor recommended they start eating this protein. Others actually come in with a list to say, eat Mosuhlwane, eat this, eat that, and not
from their doctor, or
yes.
from dietitian or whatever.
From the dietitian. The dietitian would have recommended, should be coming in and saying, my dietitian said I should eat 1, 2, 3, and I don't even have an idea of what that is. And then, because I have the products there, I'll sit down with them and explain to them, this is Mosuhlwane. And Mosuhlwane, the main component of Mosuhlwane is this. This is dinawa. The main component of dinawa is this. And at times people come in not knowing, how do I then prepare this as a meal? And sitting down and having that engagement makes people get to understand how to then move from how they've always been doing things to a new way of doing things. And much as the doctors are there, some of them are recommending, some of them are probably not doing. But then again, it's not to say they're not doing it, because maybe this podcast is something that they need. They'll be looking at to say, oh, we didn't know Aunty Amy is there operating this business. Maybe this is where I could recommend my patients to go and source their products. I know, I mean, I cannot name the doctors to say so and so and so and so have recommended, but I have had patients who've come through to say, my doctor recommended that I eat 1, 2, 3. And they actually know that you are operating from here. So can I have 1, 2, 3?
Okay, so as we come to the conclusion, what are the main foods or the top 5 or top 10 foods that you'd recommend for somebody to stay away completely from this, they call them what, non-communicable diseases?
Yes.
Or lifestyle diseases.
Lifestyle diseases, yes. It's
obviously morojo.
To stay away from?
No, what you recommend, the food that you recommend.
If you were to put the 5 products that we have here,
just go through them.
I wouldn't have a choice in terms of like which one to pull out, which one to. I would say to them, eat them all.
Take us through one by one quickly.
Okay, here we have what they call yellow pap. Essentially, it's the corn. It's the yellow maize that has been ground with the bran. So it's a whole grain as it sits. And then this comes into fill in your carbohydrate requirement. And then you have dinawa. These are sugar beans. They are a protein. They cover the protein aspect of the food chain or the food group. In the same way, here we have Mosuhlwane. It's also a bean. It's a legume. It's a protein. And then on the table there we have peanuts, which are also a protein. This here is bean leaves, morogo wa dinawa, which there's quite some controversy in terms of like its nutritional value. And in one of the things that I'm trying to do is to try and debunk.
Why is there controversy?
Controversy is that people say because or the way it's being processed, wa khiwa bo apewa bo anegwa e be re sa nna wa anegwa bo bewa e be re ka moso kana mo ngwageng ga go sa lemiweng teng morogo fresh o seo go bo go ntse go be go jwa morogo o dry. Maybe in that period it loses its nutritional value.
Why? It shouldn't, because the value is inside the
the question comes in from the processing. It's processing because wa bewa wa bidisiwa mo metsing for lebaka a ga o lose nutrition. Then one of the things that I'm quite keen on doing is I'm trying to do the nutritional analysis of morogo as well. First, as a requirement for the safety and nutritional analysis for the food to go into the supermarkets, but also to come in and to debunk if there is need that if the tests come back to show that yes, morogo is nutritionally packed or dense enough for our own consumption needs. So it's one of the things that we'll hopefully do shortly, to say morogo can be added in as a nutritional or nutritious part of the diet.
Okay, I notice you are not saying anything about meat. So when it comes to meat,
meat is a protein. The one thing is to try, because with certain conditions you get things like cholesterol, you get the fats. The leaner you get, if you're going to be eating the meat, go on the lean part of it. Trim out the fats that you have around your meat cuts. Also reduce in terms of like the portion sizes. Some instances you find that when you go to our traditional events, lots
of it.
Chicken in just the one plate. It's a whole load, rice, anything. And then you look into it to say, how does this help? Because essentially the body is going to then be overworked to digest all the food. After digesting all that food, where does the food go? The food gets absorbed into the body. That's when then issues of obesity come into play. That's when issues of blood pressure become part and parcel of the livelihood. And generally high cholesterol, they also come into effect. So we just need to look into how do we do things, how do we eat, how much do we eat. Think of it as building or destroying yourself. Look at your plate and decide, this is just going to be too much for my own consumption, and reduce on that. Or this is, do I have the food groups that I need for my body to function properly? And then you can eliminate or add whatever is needed as and when the need arises.
So really it's about being conscious about this and be deliberate about it.
Being deliberate about it, being fully knowledgeable, and don't feel bad about asking. I mean, some of these things I also had to learn. I still do my own research in terms of like, what is it that I know, what is it that I still need to know, what is it that I need to learn. So
what about at government level? You mentioned the Ministry of Health earlier. Is government embracing this message in any way, especially now that we have had a new government? Has there been any noticeable change or recognition?
I think not in ways that I could say, but then there are avenues. Like when I first started, I had local enterprise authority. They were quite keen in terms of like what it is that I'm doing, and then they were looking at how we could collaborate for me to actually get into supermarkets or to make the products such that they are available as and when the customers need them, because they were actually they came to my store. And I've had those engagements, but then the challenge is being one man, one woman band. It's either I then go do a follow-up with...
I don't know why, if you're working on such a popular topic, why you can't multiply yourself, why you can't get other people excited to join you. I'm surprised.
I think maybe it's... I don't think it's other people per se. Probably it's me. I think looking at it, I think it's me, because I do... look in terms of what is available, what is it that I want.
Because you have such a powerful message. I can't imagine anybody, when you say, let me offer you a piece job or something, a job where you can be the manager of, distribution or something. Why anybody wouldn't jump into the opportunity?
I think my challenge is I don't look at the business having grown exponentially enough. I think I find myself always questioning as to whether I'm in a position where I can afford to pay.
You're thinking too small.
I think I'm too small.
You are thinking too small.
I'm thinking too small. Because I think...
But you can change. You can give yourself permission to change.
I think that is why I appreciate the interview, because it's having a chat with people like yourselves and others who come in and say, but this is doable, this is scalable, because people do say that. And then the more I hear that being repeated, because like I said initially, when I started the business, it was just the one product that I had. But right now I have quite a number of products.
About 10, huh?
Yes. And if that scaling up can be happening in all dimensions, then there's potential for the business to grow and the business to impact more people, not just the consumers, but also people who get to interact. Some people who don't know the product or do not know the brand are going to then be exposed to Aunty Amy's products through Mogobe's podcast. They're going to come in and say, we heard you talking about this product, can we get in to understand what they are? And then maybe that's when I'll be able to sit back and say, okay, maybe I need help here. Can I capitalize on getting this brand given to the people in the right way that I had envisioned when I started?
Yeah. All right. Let's we're getting to a time when you have to ask me a question. But before you do, what did you say? You say you want to go to SADC, you want to go to the rest of the African continent. Are you actually taking steps in that direction?
I think one of the things that I'm doing in terms of like getting the products tested is a step in that direction, because one of the requirements is that the food items ought to be labeled a certain way. They ought to be tested for this and the other to ensure that they're safe for consumption and all that. So those are things that I'm doing, much as in small paces, but I'm
You're
slowly
working
taking
on
them
it.
away.
Okay. What question do you have for me, madam?
I think for me, it's not a question per se. For me, it's to appreciate the interview that I've had with you, and be thankful to say this could be the turning point that I've been looking for, and also to the ability to have had a chat with you. It's when I can say to you, this is where I'm at. How do I go about with this one? It's better than when some things you go through some of the things and then you find yourself stuck with how do I tackle this one without knowing then who do I ask in this situation. So
Alright.
I think for me it's just appreciation.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. All right. Look at that camera there and leave the viewer with the final party message as we wrap up.
Okay. Batswana betso tsa me ke go leboga hela motsotso ke nile le lona le go le kopa gore Aunty Amy ke yo ka di products tsa gago tsa Setswana a re boeleng gape ko marakanong a rona a ditsela re go boela ko dijong tsa rona tse di re godisitseng re itse monate wa tsone re itse le bomolemo ba tsone mo motshelong a rona re batswana ba ba ko magaeng ba ba na le di lo tse ke di rekisang kana ba ba nang le gore ba ka dira sepe hela dijo tsa rona ba ka ikopanya le nna gore re bona gore di tsenela batswana jang le bona ba kgone go nna le letseno le ba ka le dirisang go tsholetsa matshelo a bona ke a leboga.
All right. Thank you very much. Share all your contacts, detail, where people can reach you, including your WhatsApp.
Era Aunty Amy available ko Riverwalk from Thursday to Sunday from 10 o'clock until 7 in the evening. And I'm contactable as well on my cell phone. My numbers are 7121 again 35. My other number is 72170001. That one is Orange Network. I'm also available on WhatsApp on my 71 number. Thank you.
What about on social media?
Social media, there isn't that much going on, but there's a page, Aunty Amy page on Facebook. And
Something has to happen there.
something
about
has to
time.
happen. Something has to happen. We do put some stuff on there, but it's not as frequent as it ought to be happening.
Okay. All right.
But we'll up the game.
All right. Thank you very much for coming to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom. And thank you for being my guest. If you haven't done so already, dear viewer, don't forget to strike that subscribe button, notification bell, as well as the like button. Stay in touch. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.